Pack your bags, Emma. Your cheating ends here.
It feels as if my entire reality has been violently overturned, and I'm desperate to confide in someone before I completely unravel. For 8 years, I have been married to Emma, and together we have a bright 6-year-old daughter named Lily. I always believed our existence resembled the classic suburban dream. Comfortable house, dependable employment, casual weekend trips to Target like every other predictably ordinary couple raising kids. On Tuesday evening, while scrubbing dishes after dinner, Emma's phone suddenly rang on the kitchen counter. She had rushed out to the grocery store around 20 minutes earlier and strangely forgot her device, which should have been the first ominous warning sign since she guards that iPhone as if it were medical equipment keeping her alive. Emma checks it with the obsessive frequency of a teenage girl refreshing the Instagram profile of her crush. The caller ID displayed only digits, no familiar name, no smiling photo of a PTA mother. Ordinarily, I would never dream of touching her phone. Last time I accidentally answered, I was held hostage by her cousin rambling about her cat's digestive problems for nearly an hour. Certain things scorch themselves permanently into memory, yet something about that insistent vibration unsettled me. Like the faint inner voice that warns you against consuming questionable gas station sushi. What I heard after swiping to answer nearly froze my bloodstream. A man's voice, low and intimate, carrying a practiced familiarity that made my stomach plummet as though I had missed the last stare. "You left your panties at my place again," he murmured, followed by a chuckle. Not nervous, but the sly laugh of secrets shared between lovers. Then came 3 words that detonated like dynamite. "I miss you, baby." I dropped the call instantly, my hands trembling harder than the paint mixers at Home Depot. The voice clearly did not belong to some random misdial. It possessed a recognition that rattled my memory in ways I was not prepared to confront. The phone sat innocently on the counter, quiet as a newborn, betraying no hint that it had just delivered a revelation capable of dismantling a man's sense of reality. Later that night, I lay in bed beside Emma as though I were sharing space with a complete stranger, listening to her calm breathing and wondering how long such betrayal had unfolded right under my nose. She slept soundly, with the serene, guiltless rest of someone who could win awards for deception. Meanwhile, I stared at the ceiling as if it held cosmic answers, my mind cycling through scenarios so twisted they could fuel an entire season of daytime soap operas. When dawn finally dragged its weary self across the sky, I resolved to embrace my role as an amateur sleuth. Over coffee and toast that tasted suspiciously like soggy cardboard seasoned with betrayal, I began my subtle probing. "So, what's the agenda for your day?" I asked, peering at her face above my mug the way a grad student studies for a brutal exam in advanced deception analysis. She recited her usual script, heading to work, swinging by the grocery store again, since apparently we hovered perpetually one banana away from famine. Maybe lunch with her sister Jessica. Every word landed with the smooth confidence of an actress rehearsing lines in front of a mirror. Yet her eyes betrayed her. They never quite locked with mine, which was unusual. Emma had always been the kind who maintained eye contact, even while talking about DMV queues or some pointless reality TV subplot. "Lunch with Jessica?" I nudged as casually as I could manage. "Haven't caught up with her in forever. How's she handling the divorce?" Emma's reply was a carefully packaged bundle of sisterly gossip about Jessica debating whether to take her ex for everything or simply half of it. But the rhythm felt wrong. Her pause before answering lasted just a hair too long, like a skipped beat in a familiar song. By afternoon, I had morphed into the exact type of insecure man I once mocked. I tracked her location through Find My Friends like some digital detective, cross-checking when she appeared online against her claims of endless meetings. It was humiliating, exhausting, and yet somehow absolutely necessary. That night, as Lily bent over her math homework at the kitchen table, her tongue poking out in concentration, Emma's phone vibrated again. I studied her reaction with the intensity of a hawk eyeing prey. She glanced down, and for the briefest instant, a shadow passed across her expression before vanishing quicker than free samples at Costco. "Work," she announced, raising the phone. "Steve wants to know if I can cover the morning shift tomorrow." Steve, her manager, was a man in his 50s who tucked polo shirts into khakis and revered golf like it was sacred scripture. The boldest decision he had probably ever made was ordering Dijon mustard instead of yellow. "Steve texting you at 8 o'clock?" I asked, making my tone sound casual while my inner lie detector screamed like a fire alarm. "Bit late for scheduling talk, isn't it?" The true investigation began the following morning after I dropped Lily at school and told Emma I had errands. I had never been the prying type, but life has a cruel way of sculpting you into precisely the person you once ridiculed when your world disintegrates. I started with Emma's purse, perched on the counter like a leather-clad landmine. That bag was infamous in our household, a black hole of old receipts, expired coupons, lip balms, and enough oddities to stock an entire convenience store. What I uncovered inside made my hands tremble. Receipts, piles of them, from restaurants I had never stepped foot in, located in parts of the city that might as well have been Mars. Upscale establishments, too, where appetizers cost more than what we usually spend on dinner for four. La Bernardine, $67 for a single lunch. I could stretch $67 across 2 full days of meals for my family, yet Emma was throwing it down for pan-seared halibut with truffle risotto. The very same woman who balked when I suggested splurging on name-brand cereal was out dining like a celebrity chef on tour. But the restaurant receipts were just the appetizer. The main course came when I found hotel receipts tucked in a side pocket like dirty secrets. Boutique places downtown with names like Metropolitan and Harborview Suites, places that charge by the hour what we spend on groceries weekly. The kicker, some receipts were signed by someone else. Not Emma's neat, careful signature I'd seen on birthday cards and mortgage documents, but sloppy, confident strokes spelling out a name I recognized from family Christmas cards. Derek, my own goddamn brother. Seeing his name on those receipts was like getting punched by reality wearing brass knuckles. This wasn't some stranger sweeping my wife off her feet. This was my brother, the same guy who used to give me wedgies and steal my lunch money, who'd borrowed $5,000 from me last year to get back on his feet after his own divorce. I moved to Emma's dresser, rifling through drawers that used to be boring, but now everything was evidence. Behind her winter sweaters, I found a jewelry box I'd never seen, smaller than the one on top with rings and necklaces I'd given her. Inside was an expensive-looking bracelet with a charm too small to read without squinting. D&E forever. Derek and Emma. Forever. The financial records in our home office told their own story. Emma was meticulous about record-keeping, which made my investigation embarrassingly easy. Bank statements going back months showed regular withdrawals, always cash, always amounts that wouldn't trigger alerts but were too large for lunch money. Monthly transfers to an account I didn't recognize, labeled personal expenses in Emma's handwriting. But the smoking tool was in a folder marked miscellaneous, transfer records to an account under Derek's name. Not loans or gifts, but regular payments with memo lines that made my blood run cold. Hotel expenses, dinner reimbursement, weekend getaway. My wife wasn't just having an affair with my brother. She was financing it with our joint savings, money we'd set aside for Lily's college fund and family vacations. Finding the paper trail was like discovering the tip of an iceberg. The real wreckage was still hidden in Emma's phone, the same device that started this nightmare. The opportunity came when Emma announced she was taking one of those luxurious 20-minute showers involving enough steam to rival a sauna. She'd left her phone charging on the nightstand, face down as usual. My heart pounded like I was defusing a bomb instead of checking text messages. Emma had never been big on security. Her passcode was Lily's birthday because she thought phone thieves wouldn't guess that someone with family photos plastered all over her lock screen might use her kid's birth date. The phone unlocked on the first try. What I found was worse than my sleepless night of paranoid speculation. Deleted conversations everywhere. Emma had been cleaning house, wiping away evidence like a digital janitor. But technology keeps records. Little breadcrumbs of digital infidelity painted a clearer picture than any Renaissance masterpiece. Thread after thread of deleted conversations, all with the same contact. No name, just a number I was starting to recognize. The timestamps told their own story. Late-night texts when I was sleeping beside her, afternoon messages during lunch breaks, early morning exchanges while I made coffee, and packed Lily's school lunch. Emma wasn't as tech-savvy as she thought. Buried in the drafts folder, that digital graveyard where unfinished thoughts die, I found the motherlode. Messages she'd typed but never sent, like a diary of her affair written in real time. I can't keep lying to him like this. What if he finds out about us? I feel terrible, but I can't stop. And the one that made my knees weak. Derek, I think I'm falling in love with you. Derek. There it was, spelled out in black and white. Not some random coworker, but my own brother, the man who taught Lily to ride a bike, helped me install our deck last summer, been coming to Sunday dinners while secretly planning to blow up my life from the inside. The timestamps showed this wasn't recent. Months of sustained, calculated betrayal happening while I worried about mortgage payments and refinancing the house. Every family dinner where Derek sat at my table. Every time he hugged Emma goodbye too long. Every occasion I thought they were being friendly in-laws. It was all performance. That evening, Derek walked through my front door like he owned the place. Same cocky grin he'd worn since childhood, carrying expensive wine and wearing a ridiculous polo shirt. The audacity was breathtaking. Here was a guy who'd been sleeping with my wife, spending my money, planning a future that didn't include me, showing up with wine like he was beloved family instead of a backstabbing snake in khakis. "Emma!" he called out like announcing his arrival to his girlfriend. "I brought that Cabernet you mentioned. The one from that little winery the one I heard you talking about. If I hadn't already seen the evidence, that slip might have flown over my head. But now I was listening with FBI wiretap intensity, cataloging every word, every glance, every interaction that proved what I knew. Emma practically floated in when she heard his voice. Watching them greet each other was like witnessing acting masterclass, the casual hug lasting a fraction too long. Her hand lingering on his arm when she thanked him for wine, the shared look passing between them before they remembered I was watching. "You didn't have to bring wine," Emma said, but her tone suggested she was pleased. "I made that roast you love so much." The roast he loves, not we all love, but he loves. Because apparently Emma had been taking requests from her lover and serving them at family dinner like twisted room service. Meanwhile, Lily was at the table with her coloring book, completely oblivious to adult drama unfolding around her. She was working on elaborate unicorns and rainbows, humming under her breath the way kids do when they're absorbed in something that makes perfect sense to them. Watching her color while her mother and uncle performed their charade made my chest tight with protective rage I'd never experienced. "Uncle Derek!" she squealed, abandoning crayons to run for a hug. "Look what I drew. It's a unicorn flying over a castle." Derek scooped her up like auditioning for Father of the Year instead of Homewrecker of the Century, spinning her around while she giggled. He praised her drawing with enthusiasm that would have seemed genuine if I didn't know he was destroying her family from inside out. Dinner was special psychological torture. There we all sat around the table like some Norman Rockwell painting while I tried not to choke on food and rage simultaneously. Emma served the meal with domestic pride that would have been sweet if it wasn't part of elaborate deception. Derek complimented everything from seasoning to vegetables, and Emma glowed under his praise like a teenager with her first crush. Putting Lily to bed made me realize how fragile innocence really is. Our bedtime routine was sacred. Teeth brushing, pajama selection, story time. As I read Goodnight Moon for probably the 1,000th time, her little hand curled in mine. I felt like I was saying goodbye to more than another day. When I came back downstairs, Derek had finally left. Emma was in the kitchen loading the dishwasher, humming the same tune she'd been humming all week. Probably some song he'd introduced her to during Romantic Rendezvous. Something inside me finally snapped. I cornered her between the kitchen island and sink, not physically threatening, but definitely blocking escape routes. "We need to talk," I said, and even to my own ears, my voice sounded different, colder. "Yesterday, when you were at the store, your phone rang." The plate slipped slightly in her hands, barely noticeable unless you were watching for exactly that tell. She recovered quickly, setting it in the dishwasher with careful precision that screamed guilt. "Oh," she said, and that single word was loaded with false innocence. "Who was it?" "That's what I'm hoping you can tell me." I answered it. "Someone called looking for you. A man." Emma's face went through micro-expressions, confusion, recognition, something almost like relief before settling on indignation. "You answered my phone?" she said like I'd committed cardinal sin. "That's a violation of privacy." Privacy. The woman who'd been financing secret affairs with our joint bank account wanted to lecture me about privacy. "Privacy," I repeated, letting the word hang between us. "That's interesting. You want to talk about privacy while some guy is calling you about your underwear?" Her face flushed red, then drained white. She opened her mouth, probably to launch into elaborate explanation, but I cut her off. "He said he loved you, Emma." Those were his exact words. "I miss you so much." And you know what? I recognized his voice. That's when her performance finally cracked. The indignation crumbled, false confusion evaporated, and what was left was just my wife looking at me with trapped animal expression. "It's not what you think," she said, the most predictable line in marital confrontation history. "Then tell me what it is," I said. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my wife is having an affair, and the man she's having it with sounds suspiciously familiar. I never meant for this to happen, she finally whispered, and those 6 words confirmed everything I'd suspected but desperately hoped was wrong. In the silence that followed, I said the name I'd been dreading. Derek. The next morning, I drove to Derek's trendy downtown loft while so pissed I couldn't remember actually getting in the car. Derek lived in one of those bachelor pads that cost more per month than most mortgages. Exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture with names like Barcelona chair. The perfect setting for a guy who specialized in seducing his brother's wife. Derek opened the door in one of those casual button-downs that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget, hair perfectly styled. He had that same cocky smile from childhood. "Hey, bro," he said like I was there for a social visit. "This is a surprise. Want a beer? Just got this craft brew from Oregon." Craft beer, of course. I stepped into his apartment without saying a word, taking in the space that had probably been the setting for countless romantic encounters with my wife. "Nice place," I said, and even I could hear the edge in my voice. "Very intimate." Derek was heading toward his kitchen for those fancy beers, but something in my tone made him stop and turn. For the first time since I'd arrived, he actually looked at me, and I saw his expression change from casual welcome to something suspiciously like recognition. "You okay?" he asked, with just enough wariness to let me know some part of him knew exactly why I was there. "Just wanted to have a conversation with my brother, catch up on things, see what you've been up to lately." The fake smile on Derek's face flickered like bad TV reception. He was smart enough to know casual brotherly visits weren't my style, especially not random Wednesday mornings when I should have been at work. "Well, you know me," he said with that laugh I'd heard on Emma's phone. "Same old Derek. Working too much, dating too little." Dating too little? The balls on this guy. He was talking about his dating life while systematically dating my wife for months. "Really?" I said, taking a step closer. "Because from what I hear, your dating life has been pretty active lately." That's when the mask started slipping. Derek's casual smile froze like someone hit pause. "I don't know what you mean," he said, but his voice had lost that confident tone. "Emma's phone rang yesterday while she was at the store. I answered it." The color drained from Derek's face so fast I thought he might faint. "Oh," he said, and that syllable contained more guilt than a full confession. "Yeah," I said, taking another step closer. "Oh." Imagine my surprise when some guy started talking about my wife's underwear. Imagine my shock when that same guy said he loved her, and imagine my absolute freaking amazement when I realized the voice belonged to my own brother. Derek didn't even try to deny it. He just stood there like deer in headlights. "I can explain," he finally said. "And explain," I said, crossing my arms, "because I'm really curious to hear how you justify screwing my wife." Derek ran hands through his perfectly styled hair. He looked around his apartment like seeing it for the first time. "She needed someone," he said finally. "You work all the time. She was lonely. And things just happened. Things just happened. Like infidelity was a natural disaster instead of deliberate choices made by 2 people who decided their desires were more important than my family's stability." The next few days I spent preparing for legal war. I documented everything. Every receipt, bank statement, call log. I opened new accounts, changed passwords, began untangling 8 years of joined finances. I consulted Rebecca Chan, a divorce attorney who specialized in infidelity and financial deception. Rebecca explained that Washington was a no-fault state. Infidelity didn't legally matter, but financial deception did. Spending marital assets on affairs was dissipation of assets that could affect property division. Meanwhile, Derek kept calling Emma. His voicemails were masterpieces of manipulation. "I know you're angry, but what we have is real. Don't let him make you feel guilty for finding happiness." After 3 days of preparation, I arranged for Lily to sleep over at her friend's house. I spent the afternoon organizing every piece of evidence into neat piles that told the complete story of my wife's betrayal. Emma was in the living room with a book she'd been pretending to read. "Emma," I said, my voice carrying the weight of every sleepless night. "We need to talk. In the kitchen, now." By the time Emma reluctantly made her way to the kitchen, I had everything spread across our dining table. Hotel receipts arranged chronologically, bank statements highlighted to show suspicious transfers, phone records with Derek's number circled in red, Emma stopped in the doorway when she saw the display, her face going through expressions. Shock, recognition, fear, and finally something almost like relief. "Sit," I said, pulling out a chair. Not an invitation, but a command. "This is everything," I said, gesturing to the papers like a prosecutor presenting evidence. "Every hotel, every dinner, every bank transfer, every phone call, the complete record of your affair with Derek." "How long have you known?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Since the phone call," I said, "but I've been documenting everything since then. Did you know that infidelity might not matter legally, but financial deception does? Did you know that spending marital assets on an affair is considered dissipation of assets?" She winced like I'd slapped her. "Good. I never meant for it to go this far," she said. "How far did you mean for it to go?" I asked, picking up a bank statement showing a large transfer to Derek's account. "Was there a specific dollar amount where you planned to stop?" "It's not about the money," Emma said. "Really?" I said, holding up a receipt from that fancy French restaurant. "Because according to this, you spent $237 on dinner. That's more than we usually spend on groceries for a week. But it's not about the money." Emma started crying then. Not the gentle tears of someone genuinely sorry, but the frustrated tears of someone mad that their secret life has been exposed. "You don't understand," she said between sobs. "Derek makes me feel alive again. He pays attention to me. He listens to me. He makes me feel like I'm more than just a wife and mother." More than just a wife and mother. The words hit me like a physical blow, because being a wife and mother used to be something she was proud of. "So this is my fault?" I asked. "I work 50 hours a week to support this family. I come home and help with homework and bedtime stories, and somehow that's not enough attention." "You work all the time," she said. "When was the last time we went out to dinner, just the two of us? When was the last time you surprised me with flowers? When was the last time you told me you loved me and actually meant it?" I shot back. "When was the last time you kissed me without thinking about him? When was the last time you looked at our daughter and thought about how your choices might affect her future?" Emma's tears stopped abruptly. Her face hardened into an expression I'd never seen before, defensive and angry. "Don't bring Lily into this," she said. "This is between us." "No," I said, standing up. "This stopped being just between us the moment you started spending her college fund on hotel rooms. This stopped being just between us the moment you decided your happiness was more important than her stability." That's when my phone buzzed with a text message. Without thinking, I picked it up and glanced at the screen. It was from Derek, a message obviously meant for Emma's phone, sent to mine by mistake. "I love you. No matter what happens with him tonight, that doesn't change. We'll figure this out together." I stared at the screen for a moment, then slowly turned it around so Emma could see the message. Her face went white as she read the words. "He sent this to the wrong number," I said, setting the phone down. "But I think the message is pretty clear. You two have been planning this confrontation, haven't you? You've been strategizing about how to handle me finding out." Emma didn't deny it. She just sat there staring at the phone like it was a smoking tool, which it essentially was. "I want you out," I said, the words coming from somewhere deep in my chest. "Tonight. Pack whatever you need for now, and I'll have the rest of your things sent wherever you want them. But I want you out of this house, away from our daughter and out of my life." "You can't kick me out," Emma said. "This is my house too." "Actually, I can," I said, pulling out the legal documents Rebecca had prepared. "Temporary restraining order based on financial misuse and emotional distress. You've got 2 hours to pack and leave, and then you're not allowed back without a court order." The look on Emma's face when she saw the official letterhead was almost worth the pain of the past week. She realized I hadn't been sitting around feeling sorry for myself. I'd been preparing, documenting, and building a case that would protect both me and Lily. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked, like that was somehow my problem to solve. "I don't know," I said, and for the first time in days I felt something like peace. "Maybe Derek can figure that out. After all, he loves you so much."